Welcome to the Confidence Conversations podcast. I'm Gayle from Enrichment Coaching, Clarity and Courage Coaching for Confidence, and I'm the founder and CEO, or actually I prefer Chief Enrichment Officer. I love to make a difference to those beliefs that you have about what you think you can and can't do. So the idea behind this podcast is to get the confidence conversation going, and I want to explore all the different views and opinions on confidence because there's loads out there. I'm going to be talking to lots of different people over the episodes and exploring their confidence. How do they know when it's at their strongest? How do they know when it's at their lowest? And how do they manage that? And I'll be asking them for their top tips or takeaways about how they enrich their own confidence. Now, just to be clear, these conversations won't have any fancy editing. They'll be organic and authentic, just letting the conversation flow. That said, I know I'll be curious, so there may be a hint of coaching and questioning along the way. So, let's go. So, hi, and welcome to the next episode of Confidence Conversations. And I'm so excited today because we are dressed in yellow, we have bananas at the ready, and I'm so excited that the Chief Banana Officer herself, Elaine, has joined me for this confidence conversation. So Elaine, for those people that know absolutely nothing about what I'm talking about, in my true blind date style, tell us who you are, where you're from and what you do.
Hi, my name is Elaine. I am Chief Banana Officer at Power Fitness Events, and I'm Chief Banana Officer, you're Chief Enrichment Officer. And I think throughout this whole thing, I'm going to consistently refer to you as Force. So that probably is also something we should describe. So you're a runner rider in what I do. For me, it's all about connection, and it's people, and it's creating high energy space for connecting people one banana at a time. So my banana this morning is confidence. And for me, connection is a big part of confidence. And I think, something that I think the confidence inspires is a number of different C's, which I know you're also interested in, but connection is a big one for me. High energy space is what I do, but I ride my bike, but you don't need to ride a bike. So I actually launched my bananas business back in lockdown. It was never a plan that we were going to lockdown. I planned to take spinning bikes, bananas and wireless headphones out and about into festivals, workplaces, community spaces, and create that space for connection through movement. And movement is big for me in terms of confidence. And I wasn't able to do that. And I really struggled with the idea of how I would create connection through a screen, but it was the only way that we could do it at the time. So that is what I did. And I was able to differentiate myself from spinning, which is everything that I wanted. I think spinning has an unfortunate stigma. I think that's also quite reflected in confidence as well. But stigma of spinning is quite thrashy, quite heavy, quite aggressive. And I love to ride a bike. I believe I was born to ride a bike. But for me, simply moving your body, shifting your mind is what power the bananas business is all about. So that's why you are a runner. And the whole thing about GayleFORCE was that Ryan, who's only ever joined one ride, and we met in South America, and he's now living in Essex, but he was joining a ride, and we talked about you being stronger than the wind.
Well, I think it was my first ride, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
And I'd because I go out, if you know me, you know that I've been running for quite a while. I'm no athlete, but I try and get out when I can, and I really enjoy it, aside from falling over a few times. And the first time I came on with you, I was like, I'm not sure what this is going to be like, but I'll give it a go. And I ended up running quite a long way. And I think by the time you'd done your 45 minutes and you'd finished, I was still 1.5 miles away from home. And I remember him saying, run like the wind, go GayleFORCE. And it's kind of stuck. So I've become known as Force.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
The Gayle name has had a lot of connotations over the years, but Force is definitely one of my favourites. And even now, I think I sent you a message the other week, because even in my predictive text on my iPhone, when I type in my name, it comes up now with GayleFORCE.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that is also a thing that you could attribute to confidence, because you're able to step into that.
Yeah, it's so true, actually. Yeah, and I always change my name on Zoom as well.
On Zoom,
I change it from when it says Gayle Enrichment Coaching to GayleFORCE. Yeah. And
then every now and again we'll do the rider intro and the warm up track to "Can You Feel the Force?"
Yeah, I need that.
So,
music,
we bring it
actually.
all in.
Yeah, and it's
But it's all
brilliant.
about the presence. And I think that is a huge part of confidence. And it is, I mean, I know that you talk about that fake it till you make it thing. And I think that's a really interesting idea. But actually being able to step into something is and be able to sort of shift is a big confidence boost.
I think the fake it till you make it thing. So I try not to use that because I don't believe in it, because it feels wrong. It feels wrong. It feels fake. It feels kind of like you're trying to be something that you're not. So I try to use the whole act as if, which is I guess is the same thing, but it's a terminology. It's about how you speak about it, isn't it? It's about being, you are working towards being more confident or more whatever. So act as if, and I think I've said this before, that, we watch people in plays or, our favorite soap opera stars or whatever. They've all practiced and practiced and practiced until they've become that person. And actually, sometimes we're unable to distinguish, what the actor's called and what the character is. Because you go, what's the name of that person that plays, James Bond? You can't distinguish because they've become so good at it. And for me, that's what the act as if is.
I think that thing of confidence as well, you're talking about it. I mean, I always talk about it on the bike as confidence is a practice. And confidence, I think, as a word, it sounds so unreachable. And I think people are just, and then when something's unreachable, sort of the fear sets in, and, I have to be something, and I have to be, for example, academic education, I was all over that school, absolutely all over it. But actually, when I got to the point at which I was going to go to university, I didn't. And for me now, on reflection, I'm so pleased that was my choice at the time, because I believe that if you can walk into a room full of people and have a conversation, you are going to learn so much. And by learning and being open to adventure and exploration and curiosity, which is another, I think, C that you apply to with confidence, not going into a room full of people thinking, oh my goodness, this is so overwhelming, I'm never going to know enough to have a conversation. But if you know a little about something and you just know that, that will activate a conversation, that will activate interest and energy. For me, confidence is energy. And I know that you said, where do you get your confidence from? For me, it's riding my bike. And actually doing this morning, I think I'm not riding my bike. I'm not moving, and I might want to get up and, move around, but actually I'm attached to my laptop through my headphones, and that's that kind of thing. But for me, I need to move. That's where I get my confidence. That's where I get my energy. And I think, and in terms of preparation, people say to me, you talk a lot on the bike. Where does it come from? And I say, well, I rock up on my bike with one word on my banana, and my banana today is confidence. Well, I know that's what we're talking about. But I know also we'll go into curiosity, we'll go into compassion, we'll go into courage. There's a lot of C's, and we haven't even touched the rest of the alphabet. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we can talk about. And you're potentially a huge amount more on any topic than I do. But I'm not, as you said, pretending to be an expert on that, but I'm really interested to find out more about it, and I think if you're open to that, learning, that curiosity, that type of thing. But for me, that one word on my banana can spark a conversation, and that's where my banana and the idea behind the banana's business, everybody's like, what is the banana about? Well, it's an obvious icebreaker, apart from anything. I use the banana as a tool. My bike is a tool. My bike is the way that I like to move. But if I said to you, no, to achieve those goals, GayleFORCE, you need to ride a bike. And you said, well, I like running, and I really would like to progress in my running. I said, no, running's not going to get you there. We may have the same goal in terms of why we move. But if you don't move in your truth, then you're never going to achieve that for you. And that's never going to be true to you. And so, kind of as I do, diverse a little bit, but the whole idea for me is the banana is a tool to spark conversation, and whether or not that be that you throw your banana at the screen with a word on it, which for me is vulnerability as well. It's, why would you put that word on a banana? What is going on in your life? I have no idea why people rock up to a ride and why they would put that word on their banana, but that is the magic of it. And then I will talk about it. But what I might talk about, you think, well, that's completely different to what I was thinking. But again, that is where that's the part of the fun of life, and that's the interest, and that's the learning and the adventure and the growing and all that stuff that we can be open to if we're open to it. But also at the end of a ride, if I've got my spinning bikes and I'm out and about in nature, I'm in the garage or wherever I am with my bikes and my bunch of people that are riding bikes, every bike is prepared with a banana and a pen, and it's an open space. When I started this, I would put the word on the banana, but then I realized, who am I to dictate what word is on that banana? It's a word that inspires or motivates you, which is entirely different to me. But at the end, you can get off your bike and you can stand there and you can chat, and it's quite, again, for me, having something in my hand is actually really helpful in terms of confidence. There's something about throwing a banana around for me that actually just gives me something to play with. Yeah. And play, as you know, is huge for me.
I think they're almost props, aren't they? And also they take away a bit of the focus. And I think I talked about this with Ali Berry, because she was saying she uses props in her photo shoots, and almost they take a little bit of the focus away from you to make the other person feel more confident. But I think the thing that I love about the bananas words is, A, it makes you think, oh, well, what's my word going to be today? But also then when you hear what everyone else's word is, I always have that's a great word. And then I start to think about what that means for me, apart from the day where I turned up with my big inflatable banana that said supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Yes, that's right.
But that is the word that you say when you don't know what else to say. So, there was a meaning behind that word.
Yeah, and I just think for me as well, the preparation is no script, it's energy. So it's the energy that I, in terms of how I prepare. So I don't necessarily think about a script. Again, if you're walking into a room full of people, you wouldn't think about, right, okay, this is exactly what I'm going to say. You just need to be open to it. You just need something. That'll just spark a conversation. And for me, that education, that social education, if I had kids, I would be pouring that into them in terms of know a little about a lot of things and just step into it and just have the courage to say one word that will spark. And, I think that is, and it's also, if it's inside of you, it's not something you're pretending, like you say. It's not that you're not pretending to be anything you're not. If I'm having a tricky day, I'll show up to it, but that raw and real emotion is actually something else that inspires, I guess, confidence to express your emotions, and not to.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to come back to something that you said right at the very top of that, is about confidence being unreachable. Talk to me a little bit about what you mean about that.
I think, again, a little bit like spinning has an unfortunate stigma for me. Confidence could also have an unfortunate stigma. And that's not because everyone thinks spinning. I mean, I love a spinning bike. I mean, that's why I bought 9 of them and started a business, but confidence, people think, you are who you say you are. Confidence can also be attached to arrogance. Yeah. And overconfidence, that it's all of those sorts of things. People say, oh no, it's okay to say you're doing a great job. I'm doing a great job. Well, that's confidence. That's not, that doesn't need to be arrogance. And so I think and if you think of an overconfident, or if that's even a thing, or an arrogant, that's not an attractive quality. So if confidence gets attached to that, it's not something necessarily people want to achieve, and it feels a long way from somebody who is fearing it. You've got to want it more than you fear it, so you've got to want to step into that space.
I think as well that the whole I think you're right about, it could be confidence can be determined as arrogance, can't it, as well? And I was thinking back to, sometimes when you're a child and you're like, oh, don't stop showing off, Gayle. So I used to go to dancing school, and I quite frequently can hear my mum go, stop showing off, Gayle. And actually, you look back and you think, well, was I just pretty confident at that point without it being, really arrogant? I also wonder whether this arrogance thing is more linked to, so right, hear me out here. men sometimes can be seen as being really confident, can't they? But if a woman's perceived as that, she's seen as being a little bit overconfident and maybe a bit, oh, we don't. It's that stigma thing, isn't it? It's a really interesting concept, and this is why I love these confidence conversations, because in terms of the unreachable, I would always work with my clients to say, right, well, let's determine what this confidence means for you then. Because it doesn't have to be what it means to me is different to what it means to you. What, how do we get to understand what that confidence means for us? Like you've said, it's connection's part of confidence. Being on your bike is where you get your confidence from, and you're quite clear about that. And I think I'm quite clear that, often my confidence comes from pulling up my big pants and all of that stuff that I talk about. So it's really important, I think, to find what is your confidence, so it doesn't become that stigma and it doesn't become unreachable.
No, and once you've found those little nuggets that help sort of propel you on the way, to keep coming back to them. I mean, I'm nothing without my rituals and my anchors and the things I need to do. And I think that also comes back to a safety place as well. And again, another word that people go, oh, well, nothing exciting ever happened from staying in your comfort zone. There's nothing exciting about staying safe. And I think safety is actually a huge one. And you deserve to feel safe. You deserve to feel supported. You deserve to feel seen, heard, loved, all of these things that I talk about over and over again on the bike, because I've been there. I mean, my bike chat comes from shared experience, that's where, it's practices that have helped me in challenging times of my life. But then I think confidence it's energy, but it's because it's a practice, you've got to stay in the work. And I think one of the reasons why, because I was thinking, I remember when you asked me and I came straight back with it and I said, it's riding my bike, it's a practice. And I think that's kind of one pedal stroke at a time. There's a whole lot of analogies and metaphors that I use in terms of the bike. Keep pedaling is a huge one for me. Just, stay in the work, just stay in the work. And the whole thing about the bike, I've overcome some of my biggest challenges and made my happiest memories riding my bike. And so why wouldn't that be a big confidence boost for me? I know that's my place to come back to if I need just to. And I'm reluctant to use the word get back on track, because I don't believe you're ever off track. You're kind of just in the ebbs and flows and the twists and turns of life, and it all belongs. But I think you find those things and you find the people who's contributing to your confidence, not only what is contributing to your confidence, but who are the people that are poking holes in your confidence. So really paying attention to what makes you feel. And if you're uncomfortable using the word confidence, just use something else.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing as well, because I, when I'm working on my business, people will often say, right, so tell me why, they always say when you run a business, tell people what you solve. And people say, why do your clients come to you? And actually people don't come to me and say, I'm not confident. They just don't, even though my whole business is based around confidence. They don't come to me for that. They come to me because they've had a specific issue that they want to work through, or they've come to me because they feel like they've got imposter syndrome and they're battling with their inner critic. They don't come to me and say, I'm not confident. But confidence is always wrapped up. Once you start to dig a bit deeper, confidence is always wrapped up in that. And I wonder as well whether saying I'm not confident does feel quite vulnerable, actually. And people don't want to admit that in a lot of cases, and that's fine.
But that's again another word that has a massive stigma attached to it.
Yeah.
Strength, weakness, it's those things. What does that word, inspire? So yeah, I think the practice idea for me is important. I think, I believe that authenticity is a practice, vulnerability is a practice, trust is a practice, self-love is a practice. All of these things are practice, so it's the same as confidence, but you've got to just, it's not, that's also a pace thing as well, I think, in terms of, it's not something that you cannot wake up expecting to feel confident. You've just got to practice, and you've just got to keep coming back to what and who is contributing to that feeling.
And the confidence as a practice for me links really nicely into the act as if piece, because you've got to, like you say, you've got to keep practicing. You would practice, wouldn't you? I don't know. Well, if we take running, you're training to do something, you're going to go out and practice. So why would we not practice to build our confidence at the same time? So when I asked you the question about what does confidence mean to you, and you said riding your bike, I love that was the first thing that came into your mind, and that is just your happy place, isn't it? That is just where everything happens
absolutely.
for you.
Yeah, and it's so true to me. I've been asked to do jobs off my bike. So to do what I do, bike chat, positivity, mental strength, and creating connection and high energy space off my bike. So walking, for example. And I said, oh, incredible opportunity, because at the time, there was a particularly exciting opportunity to do that. I said, but that's not true to me. I said, you can walk, so that's absolutely fine, but I'll be riding my bike. That's where I come back to, and that's the important thing. So I think that, like we said earlier about moving in your truth, that comes back to me as well. So for me, it is an immediate answer.
Yeah,
because I know that I know what I need, but it doesn't come overnight, and people say, who are you? And I'll say, unashamedly me. And now I am. And so, for example, that was how we met, was when lockdown hit, and I realized I couldn't launch the business as I could, and I'd open my garage doors and I'd see all those spinning bikes, thinking I can't launch my business I'd planned to, and I joined networking calls, and I thought,
on your bike,
I need to ride my bike. I need to ride my bike. And I remember somebody saying to me, sending me a little private message on Zoom, are you marketing or are you exercising? And it completely threw me, because for me, inside, I knew there was no marketing and there was no exercising involved in being on my bike. I just needed to be on my bike.
And that was where I felt confident. How far have you cycled since we've been on this networking call? That's all I was like, this is amazing. But you know what I'd say, that one was memorable as well. And for me, that was like, I don't know that I would have the confidence to do that on a networking. But for you, that's not out of the ordinary. And this is what I mean about confidence meaning different things to different people.
Yeah, that's it.
You were like, well, this is me.
Yeah. Yeah, and it became more unusual that I didn't actually rock up, on my bike.
Yeah. Where's your bike? Why aren't you on your bike? I am surprised that you haven't rocked up on your bike today. Actually, I must admit.
No, well, do you know what? I thought that myself as well, and the reason for that is, which is actually an answer to another question as well. You were asking me what actually knocks, what knocks your confidence. Well, for me, I've got a bit of a niggle in my calf at the moment. And so I thought, what I really want to do and what I do in these scenarios, and is run from it. So for me, that would be ignore it, get on the bike, do the thing. That was, for when I had those 3 months off my bike for that injury, that was hard. But over 3 months, I was practicing being off my bike. So it got easier and I found a way. It was incredibly hard, but as soon as I feel the whisper of something, I say, the universe whispers, the universe shouts, the universe slaps you in the face. Don't wait for the shout, and definitely don't wait for the slap in the face. So I thought this morning, God, the best place where I, could talk about confidence would be pedaling, but I can't. But that definitely knocks my confidence.
Yeah,
I'd be much happier moving.
How do you deal with those knocks though? Because I know that when you did have your injury, I mean, I always run with my camera off, right? Because I'm paranoid about dropping my phone. So I know that you can't see me and I can't see you. But I wouldn't have known that you weren't off the bike if I didn't, if you'd not said, I wouldn't have known, because the energy and the connection that you created was still the same as it always was. So how do you deal with those times where your confidence is probably at its lowest?
It's hard. It's really hard, and I think that's where the keep pedaling analogy has really helped me. I I believe, I've learned the hard way. I think that's the thing. I've learned the hard way in terms of, so I knew I had to be off my bike, but I knew I needed to find a way. And for me, I know I've been in places where I've really struggled to, my garage is where I, do everything. I did everything with Zoom and all that stuff. So it's on my property, it's in my house. But I sometimes just couldn't throw myself out the door. And I've just got to I find breath work really helpful. And I find that is a great opportunity, because you can just bring yourself back, and you just need to be in this moment. And the very thing of just hitting admit on Zoom in the space.
Yeah.
And it's a hard one for me, but I've got a lot of challenging sort of situations happening at the moment with my dad and his diagnosis. And people say to me, just, what about taking a break? And for me, it brings so much. And because, and it's real, because part of me thinks this isn't very representative of my whole life right now. Because there's some really tricky bits, but I think what I do by doing what I do is actually just demonstrate that there is all the feelings all okay. And I come back to that a lot on the bike, and being okay with that. And that's the same with confidence. You're not going to be able to rock up and have a conversation with everyone in the room at length. But if you can rock up and be okay with potentially not knowing too much and saying, I'm okay, I don't know too much about that, but talk to me about that. That's obviously really important to you. Yeah. And that is also contagious. You're boosting their confidence by being interested in what's going on for them. And so it's not one way. It's not a one-way thing. Same as me rocking up on the bike at the moment. Being off my bike injured was really hard, seeing people in my face doing everything I wanted to do. But I knew I just needed to stay in the work. And actually, in that sense, the confidence came because I would know if I continued through an injury, I'm only going backwards. I'm not going to go forwards. That's not going to help. So it's a real sort of bite hard thing, and just big breath, throw yourself out the door, big breath, press admit on Zoom, big breath, commit to the schedule. And, August, we were talking about this, and the summer months are hard months in terms of momentum. And I think, energy, momentum, that all helps with that feeling of confidence. At the moment, hard. It's a quieter time. Yeah. But I had on my banana this morning the word that I wanted to talk about, and on the back I had show up. Yeah. And show up for me is confidence. Consistency is another C. But for me, if I sack off a ride, that doesn't help my confidence, because for me, I think, again, the practice, the consistency, the showing up, you're always going to find something that boosts it. You're always going to get something, some small piece of feedback, whether it's actual or energy, again, in terms of this was a great thing to do.
And I think
for you and for everyone else,
Yeah. And I think the other thing is finding those things that boost your confidence, however small they are. And I talk all the time about, celebrate all the wins, all of the wins. It doesn't matter how big or how small they are. And you're right, August has been really tricky. I think a lot of people somebody said it's been the most holiday season ever, I think, because they've had real problems, and I've been the same. I'm not afraid to say that, it might not be August now when we listen to this, but August was quiet, probably compacted by COVID and, restrictions and all of that in terms of where people can travel. But lots of people have been off. And then then you have these whole things of, God, what's going to happen to my business? But I can already see September is starting to pack out as people start to go back and things start to change.
And when we do listen to this in October, that reflection will be a great one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I believe that. Because we will have moved forward, but the only way we can move forward is, you're talking about inner critic and all that sort of thing. And I love that, we both name our inner critic, and that's really helpful to us. But it's that whole thing of today's a great day to give yourself credit for how far you've come.
Absolutely.
And that feeling of just in October looking back and going, yeah, that was hard. It was challenging, but I have a responsibility to deliver on, you know, and experience life to its fullest. And it's hard, it's challenging, but that responsibility to just show up and just keep contributing to that feeling will, you know, confidence does breed confidence, I think. Absolutely. And so it can be really hard.
Yeah, and although, you know, that again, we would come back to the practice, doesn't it? Keep showing up, keep practicing, keep all of that, all builds everything like that, all builds confidence. And it doesn't have to be one massive thing that you do, it's all these small things along the way. So yeah, oh god, so interesting. So what if you had to give the listeners one tip then to share about confidence, what would that be?
I think it has to be practice. That would be my one word. I really think that is the absolute key. I think it's awareness into action. I think that in terms of confidence is actually a really helpful thing. So being aware of what and who, and then sitting with it for a bit. You know, and I think that comes back to pace again, you know, confidence, you know, the whole thing of if you respond and don't react, I think that's another really sort of helpful, so that, you know, just slow it back. You know, because if you actually think about, it's not necessarily the people who, you know, I talk about sort of listen with the same passion you have for being heard, and quite often, and I talk a lot, so, but quite often you will listen to the person who actually just takes it all in and takes their time and then responds. You know, because and that, you know, that's, you know, whether or not it's confidence in terms of self-confidence or actually confidence in someone else and trust in someone else and all that kind of thing. So not being afraid, and this is the whole thing of it again, being unreachable, you know, don't go too fast, you know, take your time. And, you know, practice is, like you say, you know, we didn't, for example, we were not born with a second language, something else I talk about, you know, that isn't, you can't expect to wake up confident. You can't expect to wake up and speak fluent French. You know, it's exactly the same with confidence. So I think the practice bit is just really important.
Yeah, and I love the whole, you know, don't go too fast. And one of the things in the hashtag bike chat, which I love, and I just wish that I could remember loads of it when I get home. Sometimes I actually stop and I get my phone out and I make myself a note, because I'm like, I really love that.
I remember the one that you loved was the what if for what is.
Yes, and also don't should on yourself.
Don't should all over yourself. Absolutely not. No. Well. If it could have, it would have. Do not should all over yourself.
And there was one the other day as well about you had a purpose before everyone had opinion.
Yeah.
I actually sent that to somebody else because I was like, we had been talking about that. So I was like, on my power ride this morning, Elaine said this. And there was the other one as well about the roller coaster, you know, stay sat down. Stay in your seat. Stay in your seat. Only the people
I've been using that one a lot. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The only people that get hurt are the ones that jump off the roller coaster. So yes, stay in your seat. I think, you know, but these are all just things that have helped me. And I say it the same every time. And again, the reason I say it the same every time is because I practice. Yeah. You know, and writing down is really helpful for me. That's, you know, that's therapy, and that is one word on a banana, or it's a whole bunch of bike chat. Yeah. But for me, again, there's something about, like you say, thinking of that word and getting clarity on it, which is another C, which I believe, you know, is another contributor to confidence. You know, if you get clear on something, you can be really confident, you can be really committed, you can commit to it. Mm-hmm. You know, there's so many C's that I think are just actually, I think it's one of the best letters of the alphabet. There's so many that you can actually really contribute to life. And it's, you know, this is life right now. You know, that's the thing. And clarity, confidence, compassion is another great one as well. And I think that's being kind to yourself. You know, doing your best today is going to look different to any other day. You know, it's another one that I will always come back to, because go kinder. You know, it's, you know, if it's a hard day, showing up is going to be harder, and you might make more mistakes. You know, but that's all part of it. And, you know, just having the courage to try again. Yeah. You know, that's the whole thing. The courage may not be the big leap. The courage may simply be that little voice in your head that tells you, I can, or I'll try again tomorrow.
Go again.
Yeah. Yeah, keep
I
practicing.
think as well, you know, a lot of this is in the language that we use, where we talk about mistakes and we talk about failure and that kind of thing. But if we don't see it like that, and we see it as sort of learnings along the way, that, you know, well, it didn't quite go as I planned, but hey, that's okay, because I learned this, this, and this. And I've got the courage again to go again tomorrow, next day, next week, whenever that is. I'll do it again.
Yeah, and it's hard. And I think at the hardest times, that's when you need to show up. You know, and if you can do it on those days. Yeah, and I surprise myself. I do surprise myself. There's been times, certainly in recent weeks, where I've thought, not sure I can get on my bike tonight, not sure I can. And sometimes I've noticed it, I'll get on my bike a little bit sooner, because people are getting ready in the garage and doing all their thing, and they're beginning of rides or before Zoom. I'll go down there, and again, it's energy for me. So I'll go through my rituals of what I do, breathing and all this stuff that I do to prepare to get onto my bike. And if I just need that little bit of extra confidence, I'll just get on and just circle my legs a few times, and I'll just feel that movement. And I think, as soon as I need to have the confidence in myself to know that when my feet touch the pedals, somehow it happens. You know, but I'm 39 years old, and I've had this on my vision board for 9 years, and I've only just had the confidence to actually realize it. And
interesting that a lot of this confidence came from COVID in a way as well, didn't it?
Another C.
Let's do it. Yeah, God, yeah. You know, let's do it differently. How can I make this work? And I mean, you know, if anyone who's listening that hasn't joined, then you know, get yourself on the Power of Fitness Events website and get yourself on a ride, because I'm the kind of person that probably can't run with anybody because of my pace. And there you go, look, I don't have the confidence to run with anybody because I know my pace and I know how I like to run. But this is running with people, but not running with people.
Yeah, and independent and connected.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's your movement at your pace. And I think, again, in a sense, that breeds confidence, because another C, but the unfortunate nature of comparison.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I say it, you know, every warm-up track, you know, no comparisons and no expectations. And I say it because I sometimes spot it when I'm actually riding physical bikes with people, and I notice that people are looking around, and I'm like, if you are comparing yourself to anyone in this space, you have missed the point. Yeah. Whereas with Zoom, you are, you know, as you say, video on, video off, it really doesn't matter. You know, phone in the pocket as if you're listening to any other playlist. That's how Power Online works. And you can do you. And we all know that the best thing that you can do is just do you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and also I love, because I believe, you know, confidence is contagious, and we have the power to contribute that in a space that, you know, that I aim to create. And that is the whole idea of, you have no idea who you're inspiring just by being you. Yeah. And I say that with the Power Zs, you know, because I think the earlier we get to know, you know, that's the so 4'10" and above, they can ride bikes with me, or they can ride online, they can run online, whatever they want to do. But the younger generation, because I think if I'd had that space to hang my life on a rack for 45 minutes and somebody tell me that I can be whatever I want to be, and I'm inspiring somebody by being who I am, raw, real, who I am at that moment in time, because, you know, and I use different analogies with nature, but it's true, you know, nothing blooms all year round. The moon is whole all month round, but it's not full all month round. You know, it's okay to dip behind the clouds. You know, it's all of those sorts of things where this is okay. But if you can find the people who contribute to you coming back out from behind the clouds, the confidence, that type of thing, then surround yourself with those people.
Yeah. And God, I would say that I've never felt any kind of comparison on a ride, because like you say, it's just me, but I feel like I'm running with a group of friends, and I'm gonna have to record all the stuff you say so I can just like plagiarize it all, because or sometimes you'll say things that, and actually the connection is in the emotion that it triggers in me to either, you know, because you've mentioned me as we're running, you know, you've said, you know, GayleFORCE, you've said something, and then suddenly you're like, oh, she's talking about me, and that makes that gives me the confidence to then go. And I know you do you do the mountain, don't you, on the ride as well? And quite often I'm like literally at the end of my road at that point, thinking, well, I'm on my way back, and I hear myself sometimes go, oh really? And then I'm like, no, I've got to do it, I've got to go, I've got to keep going. And I, you know, and I know you don't believe in stats and all that, but I like to keep track of my pace so that I know whether I'm going to overheat or not.
And but it is whatever works for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is that feeling of, you know, we are, you know, it's a Johan Hari quote about the idea that, you know, bees need a hive and humans need a tribe, you know, and it's that, and lockdown proved that, you know, absolutely proved that. And exactly what you're saying there, you know, you are simply running around wherever you are, and you can be in, you know, where you are, like Chichester, you can be in, you know, Milan, Australia, New Zealand, Sweden, you know, and you'll be doing your movement at your pace, but you genuinely feel, the feedback I've had is that, you know, it's that feeling of family and togetherness, and together we can, you know, and I think that again is confidence, you know, knowing that someone else is there, and that whole idea of somebody else has achieved something, and if they can, then you can. Yeah, you know, and I think that in itself is empowering, and again, confidence boosting.
Yeah. And I quite often, you know, when I've posted, when we've been on, and I've said, oh, you know, nowhere better to do this than with the PowerPoint. Maybe it's been like my first one back after holiday or something like that. And then the other guys on there will message as well and go, oh, I hope you enjoyed it. So you've just created this amazing community. So look, we could talk like literally all day. I keep saying that to all of my guests, but literally we could talk all day. So just to wrap up then, tell the listeners where they can find you on social media, and we'll pop all this in the show notes. Apparently. So
Power Fitness Events, Instagram at Power Fitness Events, Facebook at Power Fitness Events, and the website is powerfitnessevents.com. I'm also on LinkedIn because I am Chief Banana Officer, and somebody said to me the other day, Elaine, do you have a LinkedIn profile? I said, no, I absolutely had a proper job before this, yeah. Because, you know, that's but it's a thing, isn't it? And, you know, I had to do a witness statement the other day for an accident that I'd witnessed, and they asked me for my occupation. I said, Chief Banana Officer. You know, like, it's a thing, you know, and I say don't take life too seriously. You know, it's a bananas business, and Power is family with a side order of fitness. So whilst the business name is Power Fitness Events, as you've described, it's absolutely about the family.
So much more than that. Oh, Elaine, it's been a pleasure. Thank you,
GayleFORCE.
And thank you for the name too. And I will see you soon. So hi everyone. What you've just listened to, we recorded back in August with Elaine, and it's now end of October, nearly November. And Elaine and I have had a bit of a conversation about a realization that she's had that she just wants to share with you. So take it away, Elaine. Go for it.
Thanks, Gayle. Yeah, I mean, it has been a huge time for me, and knowing the podcast hadn't gone out and being so incredibly clear. When you asked me, I remember I was sat on the beach and you sent me a message and said, what does confidence mean to you? And within seconds, I just came straight back. There was no doubt in my mind, absolutely clear on what confidence was to me. And that was simply riding my bike. And back in August, it was, my dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer back in February. And he wasn't well. And I remember talking about that. And I remember the conversation we had at the time about confidence. And I was just saying, you know, that there are certain things that, you know, in life that creep in and they can affect generally how you feel. But for me, I was always just going back to riding my bike. And I think that is for me the what brings me confidence. But I did mention who brings you confidence. And I didn't specifically say my dad. And whilst I knew that my dad was, because he's now died, and I guess that's the big news, he, you know, was such an anchor for me, and we spoke every day on the phone. And I talk about it on the bike, the what brings you confidence and who brings you confidence. And I think the what I absolutely had locked in. The who I didn't quite realise until my dad died. And it's not now a case of he's on the phone, he's in a different time zone, he's on holiday, he's just caught up, he's not here anymore. And for me, that's just been such a massive realization. And I guess at those moments where I'd be feeling incredibly anxious, I would have something going on in my life, in my bananas business, whatever it may be, I would just call Dad. And if it was a broken record, or as I like to refer to it as a healing record, language is important, he would listen to it over and over again. And he'd have all the time for it. And I think it's that, that reliability, that anchor piece, that if you lose it, I didn't appreciate quite how much that would hit my confidence. And it was really interesting, actually, because somebody rocked up on a ride about a week and a half ago on a Zoom ride, as you know them well. And I said, "Bananas gang." And I was in a really good place and I was having a really good time because I was riding my bike with my bunch and it was all great. Bosh, a confidence banana on the screen. And because it was so raw and real in my mind, because we'd had this conversation, and I'm big on confidence in terms of stepping into it all and living and breathing and everything it is, but I'm so raw and real. And for me, that confidence banana hitting the screen, I said, "Thank you for bringing the confidence." Because at that point, in that moment in time, they had no idea. But for me, them arriving on the screen with the confidence banana was at that moment everything I needed. And also the absolute crushing reality of the fact that, and so I talked about it because that's what I do. And so I said, actually, since my dad has gone, I've really noticed a dip in my confidence. And so what you need at that time is people who bring you confidence. And the sort of that gift of that banana was representative of that person who incidentally has been on every Zoom ride every week since I started that thing. Brought the confidence. And so I think there's a real clear distinction between what for me and who. And I think I can always rely on my bike because my bike is within my sphere of influence and everything else. It's in my garage downstairs. I can go and ride my bike whenever I choose. People, for me, and we've talked about this before, is there's that huge feeling of reliability and who you can call on. And the simple fact that even those people that you can count on sometimes aren't available. Yet my bike is always physically available to me. And so those people may absolutely want to be there in terms of my friends right now. And so many people have been incredibly supportive and right there on the end of the phone and absolutely open to listening to my healing records over and over again and all of this stuff and these waves of grief that are happening, all of that stuff. But I think my dad is actually an example of somebody who's never going to be there again. And people say, "Oh yeah, but you can talk to him." I'm like, I'm not quite at that point yet.
Yeah.
So that is the process.
Do you think there'll be a time where you will get there? Or do you think you'll
Definitely,
need to find this from someone
because
else?
I'm open to the work.
Yeah.
And stillness as well. That is the thing for me is. So I'm kind of hoping that my dad, who was such a keen peddler, as you know, and his keep peddling was our go-to metaphor and analogy for life. So I think the place that I will find to talk to my dad and my confidence will gradually sort of get back again, because it's a bit of a trust thing as well. I think, you only control what you don't trust. Yeah. I believe that. And so having that trust again in terms of the fact that the confidence will come back, it's a bit like joy. Like at the moment, I say on the bike, you can be grieving and still find joy. And I think those moments of joy will appear. Trust, when they leave, they'll come back again. Yeah. Trust my confidence. Because there are moments whenever I ride my bike, my confidence absolutely lifts. There was a little chart, a little graph of how my confidence was going. If I'm sat on my bike, you'd see it absolutely go through the roof. So the more I'm doing what's true to me and what I know brings me confidence, which ultimately was riding my bike and is now also recognizing the anchor of my dad, I definitely feel that the two can combine, and together, I'll get back there. I mean, I believe it, which I think is the first place to start, and I understand, as frustrating as it is, that we all will rise again, and it's just being okay with where I am at the moment is probably more of a frustration.
Yeah,
but the first bit is the awareness into action. And
yeah, absolutely. And I was chatting to somebody earlier who was talking about just sitting with things, and actually that just being okay, and that's fine, for you to go through this process. Look, and I'm sure everybody is going to say things to you, and I've said to you on a couple of messages, there's nothing I can say, because nothing I can say can make this different, better, but everybody will try naturally to kind of do that.
And people have been incredible.
I know, and people aren't they, when this kind of thing happens. But I do think you have to deal with this in your own way, and you will get through it. It's probably never going to become easier, but you will find a way that it works for you. And I think you trust that things will happen, and you've got self-belief. And I think for people listening as well, that are probably going through something similar, or have experienced something similar, or maybe about to experience something similar, that trust and that belief will be really important for them, I think. And hearing you say that will be really helpful for them.
I hope so. I mean, that is why I believe in talking and sharing our stories, because it's really raw and it's really real and it's really emotional for me at the moment. You can hear that in my voice. There's no hiding it. I'm not intending to hide it. I don't want to hide it. This is where I am right now. But it was the thought for me of just coming back and saying, oh, actually, that's probably not my complete story. And I hadn't realised it until now, but now I have realised it. I'd like to share it because it's really hit home for me.
Yeah.
But in all sorts of positive ways, I knew how grateful I was for my dad. Possibly didn't kind of realise the sort of the angles to it and the depth of it and all of that kind of thing. So.
So Elaine, look, I just want to say, and probably on behalf of everyone that's listening, thank you for being so unashamedly you, I guess.
Always.
Always.
There is no other way. There is no other way.
No, I know, but not everybody can do this. This isn't something that everyone can do, can share and can talk so openly and be so honest. It doesn't come and I don't think it's come easy to you either. And I can see you, and I can see that you're getting emotional.
Well, it's huge for me. I used to, people used to come to me and say, I've lost my dad. And I thought, gosh, I can't imagine. And that is absolutely it. You cannot imagine until you've actually experienced the loss of a parent. And for me, someone who was so pivotal in my life, it's huge. And so it's trying to accept and understand that is going to be a big knock in so many ways. Some days it'll feel better, some days it won't feel so good. But it's feeling what is, rather than trying to feel anything sort of forwards. It's just, as you were just saying there, that example of somebody who said this morning, just where are you right now? And feeling our way through. But
definitely. Well, thank you for being so brave. I'm really proud of you for sharing, and thank you for letting us be a really small part. I understand that, a really small part of this. So thank you.
Thank you, Gayle.
And we'll speak soon. I want to just wrap up by saying that Elaine's reflections of the what and who affect confidence, I think, have been quite significant for her. And I wonder how often we all go to the what affects our confidence rather than who actually has an impact on that. So I think I just want to say thanks to Elaine for being so brave and for sharing her story and for sharing her reflections as well, because I think that's really important. And often we don't get to hear that raw emotional side of somebody's grief. And I think she's been really brave. And I know that she feels that, if this helps one person on their journey, then that will all be worthwhile. So thanks for listening, and join me next time on the Confidence Conversations podcast.